Sure. Well, good morning. Welcome to Scarborough Agincourt, my beautiful riding, diverse riding of Scarborough Agincourt. I want to first and foremost welcome Stephen back to Scarborough. Yay, Stephen. And I also want to welcome my colleague, both of whom are here today, this morning, Mitzi Hunter, the member from Scarborough-Gilwood. And then to my left here is Manal Abulali from Scarborough Rouge Park. Welcome to Scarborough Agincourt. What a beautiful morning for all of you to be here in my riding. I'm very pleased to have Stephen to be back in my riding, Scarborough Agincourt, because he understands the pain so many Ontarians are feeling right now. He is presenting bold solutions and ideas to these urgent problems that are affecting individuals and families every day. He's offering voters a choice in this election, a conservative government that will cut with chaos, only making the biggest and the richest richer, or a liberal government that will invest to make Ontario a place to grow. Please help me to welcome our leader, but also the next Premier of Ontario, Stephen Del Duca. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to be here in this beautiful location, standing alongside my dear friends, Soo Wong, Mitzi Hunter, and Manal, who are working so hard. And that's why I'm delighted to be back in this community to talk about such an important issue for hardworking families here in Scarborough, for hardworking families right across the province of Ontario. First of all, I want to say to Sue and to Mitzi and to Manal, I have seen firsthand Sue and Mitzi, having had the chance to work alongside you in the legislature, and Manal, since we first met many months ago, to see the level of dedication, the energy, the excitement that is building in each of your ridings for the positive, forward-looking, and hopeful plan that we are presenting to the people of Scarborough and the people of Ontario. I just wanted to say to the three of you and to the rest of our Scarborough team and to all Ontario Liberal Party candidates that you are doing phenomenal work, and it is work that is so important. Now, of course, today we're here to talk about one very critical part of housing affordability. I would just ask each and every one of you to kind of cast your mind back to 4 years ago, when we as a province were engaged in the previous election campaign. And Doug Ford, as he was campaigning to be Premier at that point in time, was asked very directly while out knocking on doors, talking to voters about rent control, about an issue that is so important to tenants here in Scarborough and tenants across Ontario, families across this province. And Doug Ford said that he would keep rent control in place. And then we saw that he got elected, and like on so many other issues, Doug Ford chose instead to abandon everyday people, to abandon the families of Scarborough, to abandon tenants right across this community and across this province, and instead to side with the richest, the speculators, the biggest landlords. This is not the way that you build a fair and forward-looking and hopeful province, to be on the side of real, everyday, hard-working Ontarians, again, right here in Scarborough Agincourt and across this province. And we've seen over the past 4 years, under the Ford Conservatives, how the cost of literally everything has skyrocketed out of control. The cost of food, the cost of renting or purchasing a home, the cost of getting yourself around this city and around cities and communities across Ontario. It's all going in the wrong direction, with no meaningful effort from the Ford Conservatives to make life better, easier, and more affordable for the people of Ontario. That's why we talk frequently about the fact that in this campaign, there is such a clear choice for the people of this province. A choice between continuing to be dragged backwards by the Ford Conservatives or moving forward according to the hopeful and fully costed plan that Ontario Liberals have developed to make life more affordable, to make life better, and in particular when we're talking about shelter and housing, to actually improve the quality of life for people here in Scarborough and across Ontario. And that's why today I am so delighted to be standing here in Scarborough Agincourt with Sue and Manal and Mitzi to announce that an Ontario Liberal government would reinstate rent control all across this province on every property, on every building. We know again that right here in Scarborough and elsewhere, that rents continue to go up because of the inaction, because Doug Ford has chosen to side with the speculators instead of with tenants and everyday hardworking families. In addition to bringing back real rent control across the board, Ontario Liberals will also make sure that more resources are provided to help deal with enforcement for bad actors in this industry. We'll bring forward more resources to clear the backlog in terms of landlord and tenant relations and the back and forth that occurs there. And we're going to help to provide a sensible and responsible legal framework for tenants and for owners who want to engage in a rent-to-own framework going forward. This is part of a broader plan for housing affordability that I was so honored to announce a number of days ago when we released our platform. 1.5 million new homes that we will help build, we will help secure, we will help produce over a decade. The creation of the Ontario Home Building Corporation that will be tasked and funded to help us deliver on this goal. And remember, every single home that the Ontario Home Building Corporation sells will only be sold to first-time home buyers. In our plan, you will see speculators who are banking their land, sitting on their land, even though it has permit approval. You will see them pay a levy because we need more supply, a supply of all forms of housing, including rental. So taken together, the Ontario Liberal plan to deliver real housing affordability will work. It is ambitious, it is fully costed, it is responsible, and we will deliver it. And as part of that, an essential part of that, again, an Ontario Liberal government will make sure that tenants here in Scarborough and across Ontario have real protection and a real government that's on their side, because we will bring back rent control right across Ontario. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
We're going to start with questions on the floor, and then we'll move to the line. I just asked reporters to step up to the mic. Over to you, Nicole.
Morning, Mr. Del Duca.
Morning.
I'm wondering about, what about the landlords? What about the people who purchased property in the past couple years as an investment? How are you going to help them?
Look, we're in the midst of the greatest housing affordability crisis of my lifetime. And, when you talk to tenants, when you talk to young women and men who are looking perhaps to at some point make a purchase, you see fear. You hear real pain and real anguish when you have those conversations. I certainly have. We have. When you consider that housing experts will tell you that rents, for example, in a city like Toronto are anticipated to climb by about 11% over the next number of months this year. When you consider that the average price of rent in this city, in the city of Toronto, hovers around $2,400, $2,500 per month, and it continues to go upwards because, again, the Ford Conservatives have chosen to side with the speculators instead of choosing to support tenants, despite the fact that he said 4 years ago he would support tenants. It is again the greatest housing affordability crisis of my lifetime. And so Ontario Liberals will focus on providing real relief and making life easier and more affordable for tenants, for first-time home buyers, to make sure that we have the supply of all forms of housing to bring prices down and to make life just that much better for people who expect their government at Queen's Park to be on their side. And those people know that over the last 4 years, the Ford Conservatives have chosen to abandon them time and time again. We won't do that. We'll bring back rent control. We'll make sure that we're producing 1.5 million new homes over a decade, and we'll bring the housing affordability crisis to an end.
And the rent control plan that you're planning, I guess, is it similar to what existed before 2018, where a landlord can change the rent to any degree between leases, or would there be a cap on how much can be increased between leases? So
the current plan that we've developed focuses mostly on bringing back rent control, to your point about what did exist prior to the last election campaign. But again, it is one part of a larger comprehensive set of ideas to deal with housing affordability. So on renters, on tenants specifically, in addition to the meaningful rent control, we're also going to make sure that the backlog of cases that you see or issues that you see between landlords and tenants is dealt with. We're going to make sure that there are better and more supports for enforcement for those who are bad actors within the industry. I talked about rent to own. I think it's important for the government of Ontario, and this is what Ontario Liberals will do, create a legal framework that provides certainty, provides peace of mind, and gives people a real roadmap towards renting to own. These are measures that, again, taken together will provide real relief.
I wanted to ask about an aspect of your platform, the plan to, I guess, develop a vision for a 4-day work week. Can you talk a little bit about what that process would look like?
Yeah. So the 4-day work week demonstration project that I was so proud to announce, I think it was last October, you know, the nature of work has changed dramatically over the last number of decades here in the province of Ontario. I tell people we have I'll say right now, a conventional, for the most part, 5-day work week, but it wasn't always a 5-day work week. We also know that for so many workers and their families across this province, despite the fact that they show up, despite the fact that they work hard every single day, they are falling further and further behind. This notion of balance between work and life really has spiraled out of control. I think in particular during the pandemic, people are exhausted, they're burnt out. We see worker productivity dropping. So that's why Ontario Liberals, because we believe in gathering the evidence and making responsible and informed decisions based on the evidence, we want to strike a 4-day work week pilot or demonstration project. We want to include academics. We want to include the private sector. We want to include advocates in this space. We know that there are both public and private sector businesses or entities that have already started to move in this direction. We see it around the world, taking a look at some of those best practices. We have industries in Ontario today, conventional industries, like, for example, unionized construction in Northern Ontario that transitioned in some respects to a 4-day work week a generation ago. So we want to take a look at all of that information, gather it in, run through some demonstration projects or a pilot, and then make a responsible and informed decision going forward to help make sure that workers and their families are prioritized, which is the polar opposite of what we've seen from the Ford Conservatives. Let's just remember, Ford Conservatives scrapped the minimum wage increases, delayed on paid sick leave, and then came up with a half-hearted program for paid sick leave. And then right before an election, in a flurry of activity, sent out a whole bunch of press releases and made splashy announcements about how they care about workers. Doug Ford's had 4 years to prove that he cares about workers. What he has proven is that he cares about the biggest profiteers that we have in this province, and he wants to make them richer. That's not the Ontario Liberal way. We will prioritize economic dignity for workers and for small business entrepreneurs, and that's how we're going to rebuild Ontario's economy.
Okay, and last one. Yesterday was the deadline for signing up candidates, and the Liberals fell too short of a full slate. The New Blue Party, for example, was able to run a full slate. Does this affect your rebuilding prospects?
So, first of all, I mean, it was always our intention, of course, and we worked hard to try to get to a full slate of candidates. I have to say that standing beside Manal and Mitzi and Sue, and yesterday the rest of our Scarborough team, and the 122 women and men who stepped forward right across this province to run with me and to run because they are so passionate about rebuilding Ontario in the right way, it's an extraordinary team. You look at the quality, again, you see people here today with me who have real experience. They know how to do the job starting on day one. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have teachers, we have nurses. I'm looking at Soo Wong as I talk about that. We have people who understand post-secondary, thinking of Manal. We have people like Mitzi Hunter, who has proven time and time again that she has the integrity and the strength of character to deliver for Scarborough, Guildwood, and Ontario. We have mayors, we have business owners. I mean, it really is a phenomenal team of talent that will be ready, should we earn this honor in about 3 weeks. We will be ready to govern this province starting on day one, and I'm thrilled about this team. In terms of the party rebuild, let's also remember that when I became leader of the party in March of 2020, we had a $10 million debt. We were the first of the 4 main parties in this province to eliminate that debt. We transitioned right away to free membership, and our party membership has grown exponentially since then. We, for the first time in our party history, have 50% of our candidates at a minimum being female, a commitment that I made, and we are this is the first time that we have delivered on that commitment. So when you look at the team, and by the way, I'll compare this team of ours up against the Ford Conservatives and their backward views any day of the week. Any day of the week. When you look at our team and you look at our fully costed, fair, and forward-looking plan, you can understand why it is so clear that the people of Ontario are excited about the confidence that is building because they know the new Ontario Liberal team will deliver for them. And that's what we're focused on.
Okay, we're going to open it up to questions on the line now. Over to you, Will.
Okay, just a reminder to reporters on the line, if you could just raise your hand using the Zoom function and I will call on you for a question. The first question is Richard Southern from City News. Go ahead, Richard.
Stephen, good morning, sir.
Morning.
A little bit out of left field here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm wondering your thoughts on stat holidays. I mean, we saw Mr. Ford not recognize Truth and Reconciliation Day as a provincial holiday in Ontario. If you're premier, would you recognize that day, and would you institute any new holidays, sir?
So first of all, in our platform, we do acknowledge, we do recognize and say that September, the Truth and Reconciliation Day in September will be a statutory holiday should we be elected. We think it's so important for people here in Ontario to have a day to pause, to reflect on the very, well, frankly, the brutal past, the brutal history that we have in this country and how Indigenous people were treated, mistreated, abused. So we believe it's important to pause and reflect on that. That's why it will be a statutory holiday if we're elected. I'll also say, as I was just talking a second ago about the demonstration project or pilot that we're going to run relating to a 4-day work week to see what its potential might be for workers and their families here in the province. But I can confirm that come September, should we be elected, that Truth and Reconciliation Day will be a statutory holiday in Ontario.
Okay, we asked you not too long ago about gas, but now we understand we're going to hit yet another new gas record tomorrow, unfortunately. You've said you'd keep that 5.7 cent cut in place that Mr. Ford has announced. Would you make that even larger, though, considering what we're looking at the pumps, sir?
Well, first of all, I think, I think we have to think, well, let's think back. Let's pause and sort of cast our minds back to 4 years ago. Standing on a debate stage 4 years ago and throughout the campaign, Doug Ford said repeatedly how he was going to do all kinds of magical things, all kinds of slogans. He was going to make the price of gas more affordable. He was going to make it cheaper and easier to buy a home. He talked about electricity rates. He talked about everything under the sun that he was going to make more affordable, bring all of those prices down. Here we are 4 years later, and here we are engaged in another election campaign. And when you look at the record, you see that the cost of everything under Doug Ford has only gone in one direction. It's gone up. It's gone up. So yes, there are some measures like the reduction in the gas tax for a limited period that Ontario Liberals, should we be elected, would keep in place. But when you look at our entire and fully costed platform, you see that there are a series of ideas that go right to the heart of the affordability crisis that families in Scarborough and families across Ontario are facing. I think about Buck a Ride province-wide. If you live here in Scarborough and you have an adult Metro Pass that you purchase every single month, within 100 days of taking office, the Ontario Liberal plan for Buck a Ride province-wide will save you more than $1,300 per year. Per year. And if you live a little bit further out in the suburbs, like let's say out in Ajax or up in my community of Woodbridge, and you're hopping on GO Transit, you're talking about savings that are even higher than that. As the guy who goes grocery shopping for my family every single Saturday, I think about the price of food and how it's gone up. It's skyrocketed under Doug Ford. Well, our plan to get rid of the HST, 8% on prepared foods under $20, every single time you have a transaction under $20 for prepared foods, you're going to save 8% under the Ontario Liberal plan. And we're here today to talk about bringing back meaningful rent control across this province so that tenants here in Scarborough and elsewhere will actually get a break, will actually get relief. So unlike Doug Ford, who promised the moon and delivered nothing but more pain, more unaffordability, more anguish for the people of Ontario, Ontario Liberals will in fact move forward on our plan. And you can trust us on this because the plan is thorough, it is responsible, and unlike what we've seen from the others, it is fully costed.
Okay, our next question is from Rob Ferguson from the Toronto Star. Go ahead, Rob.
Hi, good morning, Stephen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Okay,
great. Thank you. You never know when you're on the phone. I've got another candidate question for you. It's come to my attention that in 2004, your candidate Noel Semple in Etobicoke Centre was writing in the Varsity at U of T, arguing against a student levy that would have raised about $25,000 for an LGBTQ group called LGBTQ Out. He made it clear he's not against same-sex marriage, but he did argue against the funding, saying things like the term homophobia is being tossed around like confetti. He argued that the money would be better spent on, poverty or people suffering from drug addictions, living in the streets, things like that. But the things that may raise eyebrows is the way he commented on it. One of the comments was LGBTQ people, by contrast, are not a needy or victimized subset of society, nor are they a visible minority. You're here, you're queer. We got used to it a long time ago. Go find your $25,000 elsewhere. He also compared being taunted for being gay to being himself being taunted as a child for being, quote, a fat kid. So do you find any of that offensive? Is it something you need to look into? Do you think it's okay? Where do you stand given that you've already had to get rid of 3 candidates this week?
So look, let me be crystal clear, and this is evident from everything that I have said over the past number of years. It's clear when you look at our platform. The Ontario Liberal Party that I lead, that I'm proud to lead, is a strong, strong supporter and ally and champion for the rights of every single Ontarian, including those in the 2S LGBTQ plus communities. That's why in our platform, we will fund PrEP. We will fund the other drugs that help those who suffer from HIV to make sure that they can remain healthy. We will provide supportive housing, significant new funds for supportive housing for the 2S LGBTQ plus community. I think of candidates like David Morris in Toronto Centre who've been working so hard. I think about Tyler Watt. I think about Paul Seguin, and all of our candidates who come from that community and who have spoken out to me and have talked with me and have worked with me and the rest of our candidate team to make sure that we have a platform that will address the concerns of that community, but all communities in this province, because we're a party that believes in tolerance and diversity, and we believe that every single Ontarian needs to be brought along on this journey of building the best province in the world, the province that our plan aspires to build for the people of Ontario. I've been crystal clear on these issues. I'm not aware of the particular passage that you're talking about, but we'll be happy to review it, take a look at it, and have a conversation a little bit later today. But let me just stress, every single Ontario Liberal Party candidate knows where I stand and where our party stands on fundamental freedoms, fundamental rights, and respect and tolerance for one another. And I just want to say to the 2S LGBTQ plus community, you know when you're looking at me, you're looking at our team, you're looking at our plan, that we are your allies. We are on your side, and we will deliver for you.
All right, just to follow up, Stephen, in the last couple of days when I've raised, or when it's been raised about candidates with questionable comments on the LGBTQ side of things, that immediately you would say that they would be investigated and fired. I didn't hear anything about that today, so I'm just wondering, is it a different standard here because the Etobicoke Centre is not a long shot riding like Parry Sound, Muskoka, and Chatham, Kent, and Leamington?
No, look, I believe, and I said this yesterday, you know, I believe in making sure we have all of the information in front of us before we can make any kind of decision about how we're going to go forward. And you know, let me just say, how the Ontario Liberal Party is dealing with these kinds of issues stands in stark contrast to what we've seen from Ms. Horwath and Mr. Ford. We know about Ms. Horwath's original so-called star candidate in Ajax, who it came to light, her original candidate in Ajax, it came to light weeks, months ago about some very serious lapses in judgment. And week after week after week, month after month, she stood by him. You know, so I'm just, you know, pointing out the fact that we have moved in a different direction within this party, but I want to make sure that we do gather the information that we need to in this regard to make sure that we can respond more fully over the course of the rest of the day today. But I do want to stress what I said in my original answer to this question. Our plan and everything that I believe in personally and that our team believes in personally is about tolerance. It is about diversity. And when you look at what I've already announced, and you look at candidates like Paul Seguin, Tyler Watt, David Morris, you know that the Ontario Liberal Party that I am leading is an ally and will stand in support and in solidarity with Ontario's 2S LGBTQ plus community every single day of the week, and proudly so.
Okay, and just one quickie follow-up, if you don't mind. In those passages I read to you, I know they were quick, did you hear anything that was a red flag for you? And as a second part of that, how far back do you go in vetting? Like, how far is it reasonable to go back into someone's life in vetting for things they did in university? Stephen Lecce was 19 with that slave auction. You know what I'm getting at there. So
Yeah, look, I think the vetting process for each party, including our party, needs to be robust. It needs to be rigorous. You need to make sure that the women and men who step forward to run for you and with you share your values, And so again, the fundamental value that is right at the core of Ontario liberalism is this notion of diversity, tolerance, supporting one another, looking out for one another so that everybody gets the chance to have access to real, genuine opportunity. That's why I talk so much about economic dignity. It's not select economic dignity, it's expanding opportunity for everyone in this province, in particular individuals who have been racialized, who have been mistreated, who have been marginalized for far too long in Ontario. You look at our platform, and there are a series of elements that speak to those issues directly and how Ontario Liberals will work with Ontarians to make sure that that opportunity is expanded all time. So the processes need to be vigorous and rigorous to make sure that the candidates do share the values. And that's, by the way, it is our candidate squads who helped us create the plan that speaks to these issues. As I just stressed a moment ago, for example, candidates running for us, running with us, from the 2S LGBTQ plus community have helped form a platform that is something that is relatable for those in that community. And they can see in our plan and in our candidates that we are their allies.
all right, and just quickly, did you hear anything in those passages I read that was a red flag or that alarmed you?
Well, look, until I know the sort of, what's behind those and whether or not they are in fact a true representation of what was said, I'm not going to comment on the specifics.
All right, thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, the next question is from Siobhan Morris from CTV.
Hi, Stephen. I'm just
Morning.
looking for what your thinking is going into Monday's leaders debate. I think, I know the focus of a lot of your campaign so far has been introducing yourself to the people of Ontario. So how are you approaching Monday?
Yeah, look, I'm really excited about having the chance to talk directly to the people of Ontario about the positive and forward-looking and fully costed plan that Ontario Liberals have come up with that will show that we're on their side, on the affordability issues that are a real crisis in this province, on supporting publicly funded education so that my kids and kids across this province can thrive, making sure we clear the surgical and diagnostic backlog in this province that has been left underfunded and undermined by the Ford Conservatives, having a real plan to deliver both economic dignity and an ability to fight the climate crisis. Like, the chance to speak directly to the people of Ontario is something that I'm so excited about. I'm looking forward to a healthy clash of ideas. And I believe that people in the province come Monday night will see the clear choice between Doug Ford, who is in way over his head and does not have the capacity to lead this province, and an Ontario Liberal leader and team and plan that will make their lives better.
Did you learn anything from the Northern Leaders debate that might change the way that you're thinking about how to behave on stage, how to address the issues, and to tackle this idea that Ontario voters may not be ready to return a Liberal government to Queen's Park?
Well, I'll tell you what I learned at the Northern debate. I learned that Doug Ford doesn't have any courage of his convictions. When a premier of this province needs to read a script repeatedly that others have written for him, when he's thinking about how he's governed and where he wants to take the province. And by the way, you know this, Doug Ford does this every day of the week. Reading someone else's words isn't something that speaks to me in a genuine way. And I don't believe the people of Ontario believe it does either. And then watching him duck out of that debate in North Bay and jump on his bus and drive away as fast as he could because he was afraid to take your questions. He was afraid to level with the people of Ontario. I mean, I suspect it's because he knows his record cannot be defended because it's so appallingly bad. So that's what I learned about Doug Ford. He's good at reading someone else's words, and he doesn't have the courage of his convictions because he ducked out before he wanted to face real accountability. That's not the leadership that I think the people of Ontario are looking for. Now, our plan is fully costed. It is responsible. It is forward-looking. I know our plan. I know why I'm running to be premier. I can speak about it without a script. And that's not anything more than the fact that at this moment in Ontario's history, we need leadership that sweats the details, that focuses on the plan, that actually digs down deep to make sure that we are ready to deliver for the people of this province starting on day one. So that's a stark choice and contrast that I suspect people will see more of come Monday night.
Okay, the next question is from Ahmed Al-Bayoumi from News Beyond. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Hi, Stephen. I want to start off by asking you, or following up on what Rob Ferguson was asking you about the vetting process. You fired 3 candidates within 3 days just this week. How does this keep happening to you? Like, was your party's candidate vetting process rigorous enough? And would you review why this kept happening after the election?
So, look, first of all, I think it's important to stress every single time I think any party, I'll only speak for the Ontario Liberal Party, goes through each election cycle, we always review all of our processes, nomination rules of procedure, our Constitution itself. That's a natural part of how political parties are supposed to be strengthened and grow, and that's something that Ontario Liberals undertake on a regular basis, certainly throughout my time in the party. I will say that in some cases this week, there was information that came to light that was not disclosed to our party. Some of the candidates who are no longer running with us have explained they didn't disclose these things. I believe that our process has been vigorous, but like any other process we have in the party, we will modernize and update as we go through this. Most importantly, when you look at the roster of candidates, including the 3 who are with me here today, these are women and men that you can have faith in, confidence in, to deliver our fair and forward-looking and fully costed plan going forward. Let me just stress, we're now 18 days since Andrea Horwath and the Ontario NDP presented a platform. And none of you and no one across Ontario can tell me what it's going to cost to deliver on any one of her plans or where that money's going to come from 18 days later. And since she presented her platform, we've had a provincial budget, we've had an auditor verify the numbers in this province, and anytime she's asked, Andrea Horwath says her team is still out there working on it. I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that's responsible enough. We saw from Doug Ford a budget that came out that contains no plan, a budget that was so weak that Doug Ford's own finance minister refused to confirm that they would reintroduce and pass that budget should they win on June 2nd. So neither the NDP nor the Conservatives have a plan or have the numbers to give people the confidence in this province that they can govern effectively. Only Ontario Liberals have both the team and the plan and the costing to deliver on what we are committing to. And I think that really, really matters, especially coming out of COVID.
All right. I want to ask you about ODSP rates. I'm looking at a graph here on the rates that are being promised. Currently, a single person with disabilities gets $1,169 a month. When adjusted for inflation, the Mike Harris government gave around $1,638 a month as ODSP. You're promising around $1,400. One of your candidates on Twitter said after you released your platform, or after you announced that you'd be increasing rates, that I've been pushing this issue in the party and will keep pushing for more. This is because some people are raising concerns that you're going to be raising it to rates that are below what the Mike Harris government was giving at a time where, cost of living was relatively lower. And so how do you explain to people that you're offering less than what was offered in 1995 and 2002 as ODSP rates? And are you looking at making any adjustments?
Well, first of all, let's be really clear about what we're going to do. So it's 20%, 10% the first year, 10% the second year. That's one piece of what we're going to do. The second piece is that we're going to take the current cap of $2,400 that can be earned. So it's a cap of $2,400 that can be earned before benefits are clawed back. And we're going to move that from $2,400 up to $6,000. And we're going to make it calculated on an annual basis rather than doing it on a monthly basis. We're also going to build in cost of living or inflation protection to the new rates that we have in place. And then let me just also add that we're going to reinstate the basic income demonstration project that Doug Ford committed to keep in place, but then callously got rid of after the election campaign. And I'm going to go a step further, because Ontario Liberals don't look at the ODSP conversation in isolation from the rest of what we've included in our plan around affordability. So if you're in Ontario today and you are receiving ODSP and you take public transit, as many do, you're going to see Buck a Ride province-wide make your life dramatically more affordable within 100 days of us taking office. In addition, if you're going to purchase prepared food anywhere in Ontario while you're on ODSP and it's under $20, Ontario Liberals are going to knock 8% off that. If you're a senior and you're vulnerable, we're going to give you an extra $1,000 per year as an old age security top-up. So when you look at the entire plan that we have on the affordability crisis, including for people who are on ODSP, we think it is very, very strong. Having said that, I think it's awesome that one of my candidates confirmed that if elected, they will continue to push me and in caucus and in the legislature fight for their constituents. That is exactly how democracy is supposed to work, which is the polar opposite of the way that Doug Ford has tried to keep a tight lid on his caucus through the past 4 years. We don't do it that way. We won't do it that way. Our plan is as strong as it is because all of our candidates have worked so hard to make sure it is the kind of plan that will make life better. But the work doesn't stop on June 2nd. The work doesn't stop with a press release. The work doesn't even stop with a speech from the podium. That's Doug Ford's way, saying all the right things from the podium and not doing the work to back it up. Ontario Liberals know the work continues. Progress never ends, and that's true for people who receive ODSP, and that's true for the people of Ontario.
Okay, our next question is from Etienne Lejoie from Le Devoir.
Well, Mr. Del Duca,
Morning.
In December, the Toronto Board of Trade recommended ending exclusionary zoning in the province. Then in early 2022, the province's Housing Affordability Task Force made the same recommendation. Why have the Liberals decided not to include this in their platforms?
We actually have. So what we say in the platform is that we will work urgently with our municipal partners in order to make sure that zoning laws are updated and modernized so that new dwellings, new buildings that are up to 2 stories and have 3 units of them can be approved, as we say, as of right across the province of Ontario. So I think it's really important to stress, unlike the current government, unlike Doug Ford, who likes to point the finger of blame at everyone else under the sun, I'm not going to stand here and blame the federal government or the municipal governments or, some other invisible foe. I'm going to tell you that the best way for us to deliver real housing affordability and to modernize zoning laws in this province is to work in collaboration with our municipal partners, because after all, if you truly believe in local decision making, which Ontario Liberals do, and you believe in collaborating and partnering, which we do, we want the municipalities at the table for the conversation. But I want to stress, we're going to move on it urgently in partnership with our local partners in order to make sure that we can deliver modernized zoning laws that will deliver the outcome that we want.
So you seem to describe it as an approach where you work with municipalities as opposed to sort of, in a way override their authority and just allow zoning across the province. Is that the right approach? I mean,
yes.
It seems like municipalities are have been reluctant forever to allow zoning.
Look, every conversation I've had with a mayor or member of council, many of whom have very progressive views on housing, they're not in any way, shape, or form opposed to making sure that, as I just pointed out a second ago, that more homes that are up to 3 units and 2 stories can be built in many of their existing neighborhoods. But I'm going to tell you, when you watch the way the Ford Conservatives have dealt with land planning, where they've completely trampled on local decision making by completely and recklessly abusing, for example, the MZO power to make the richest land speculators in this province even more rich, and they've completely ignored and eliminated the chance for local input. And by the way, let's not be confused. It's not just about municipal councils. It's about people who live in neighborhoods like this one in Scarborough, Agincourt. Don't we think that people who live on this street should have a say in what this neighborhood looks like? I think they should. But we also know that exclusionary zoning as a concept is outdated, needs to be modernized, but it needs to be done in partnership. So again, let me just stress, our plan over 10 years is to make sure that 1.5 million new homes are out in the market. But they have to be affordable. They have to target, in particular, first-time home buyers and tenants. That's why our plan is thorough. It is fully costed. It doesn't pretend that there's a magic wand that can get waved and fix this just with a simple stroke of the pen. It is thoughtful, it is responsible, and best of all, it will deliver the outcome that we need.
Okay, your next question. Colin, you might be on mute.
Okay.
Pardon me. Thank you so much. Stephen, just a moment ago, you had mentioned the idea of not controlling caucus if you are elected on June 2nd. So I'm wondering what that means for voting in the Ontario legislature. So under a Liberal government, are you going to allow free votes on everything, or will there be measures that you would allow? caucus to vote their mind as opposed to being whipped all the time?
Well, again, it would be hypocritical of me to say that I'm going to work in collaboration with a new Ontario Liberal caucus. Oh, by the way, I'm going to let you know right now from on high what all the rules are. I look forward to the first conversation that a new Ontario Liberal caucus will have as a family, as a team, following the June 2nd election. So together, just like how we built a platform that is fair and forward-looking and balanced and fully costed, we'll come up with an approach that we believe makes sense from our perspective. But let me also say, I'd like to have the input of the other parties in the legislature before making, again, any command and control decisions. We have literally witnessed 4 years. You've witnessed 4 years of how Doug Ford and his team like to deliver edicts from on high, in particular, well, frankly, about everything, but including things that take place within the legislature, within the Legislative Assembly. I think we get the best solutions when we do our best to work collaboratively, so I'm looking forward to that conversation, and I'm looking forward to inviting all parties in the legislature to provide their input.
Okay, thank you. And just looking ahead to Monday's debate, I'm wondering what your strategy is going into it. What did you learn from the Northern Ontario debate about yourself, your approach, Doug Ford and the others?
Sure.
And what are you going to take from that and implement during the next debate?
So I'm most excited on Monday night about having the chance to have a direct conversation with the people of Ontario, who know that Doug Ford and his team are dragging us backwards, and they're looking for real relief on affordability, real progress on education, the environment and climate, on health care, on seniors care, on so much more. People who are looking for real relief and also responsible and competent leadership. So I'm very much looking forward to that direct conversation on Monday night. In terms of what I learned this past week at the Northern debate, as I said just a moment ago, it was crystal clear that Doug Ford is someone who does not have the courage of his convictions. He is someone that seems to be required for him that he has to follow a script written by others time and time and time again, like he either doesn't know what his record was or he's ashamed of it. He certainly doesn't understand what his plan is going forward. That's why he needs the notes at every turn. And frankly, the fact, Colin, that he ducked out after the debate, jumped on his bus and sped away from North Bay as quickly as he could, instead of facing the music and having a conversation with reporters who were there to represent and convey information back, in that case to the people of the North and the people of Ontario. That is not the responsible and competent leadership that we need right about now. We do not need that kind of approach. Ontarians want leaders and teams that have the capacity, have the interest, have the drive, and frankly have the determination to act on their behalf and have the courage of their convictions. So looking forward to the conversation directly with Ontarians about what matters to them. And that's what Ontario Liberals will do Monday night. That's what I'm going to do Monday night. That's what we're going to do all the way through until June 2nd.
Okay, and there are no other questions on the line. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.